Hey Fi Baristas, as promised, here is a quick tutorial on how I do my bobbles. As you can see, this one is pretty good. And we'll look at it from different angles. I will show you something I do just to make sure that it stays erect, as I like to say. Bear with me. My camera setup here is not ideal. It is not an overhead mount, so I am trying to look at my viewfinder, make sure I'm doing this correctly and that you guys can see it. So now I'm going to make my bobble stitch, right? So you make one, you pull it out so that you have plenty of space, yarn over, knit again, yarn over. This bulky yarn does not want to run through my fingers easily. Knit again, yarn over, knit again, and that one you will take it off the needles, right? So you've made, let me see, how many have I made here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've made a 7-stitch bobble. I turn my work. I'm going to purl that first stitch, then I will knit the next stitch. These are all the bobbles. These are all the bobble stitches. So I'm going to knit that one. I will purl the next one. Sorry, working with this bulky yarn and trying to show you guys is not easy here. So I purl that. I will knit the next one. I will purl the next one. Knit this one. And then purl the last stitch of the bobble increases. Okay? I go back to the right side. I'm back on the right side of my work. I will slip as if to purl. Now I'm going to knit 2 together, right? And now we're going to do those bind off. We're getting rid of those extra stitches. So knit 2 together, bind that off. Knit 2 together, bind off, and knit the last 2 together. And it depends, you know, you can do a 9-stitch bobble, bind off. So there's my bobble. But see, especially with this bulky yarn, see it looks sort of oblong. I put that bobble stitch back onto my left needle. And see how wonky it sort of looks, my bobble? So I push it forward, I pick up a stitch from the bobble, right? I just pick up a bobble stitch, I put that on the needle, I put it on the needle, I will knit those through the back loop. Again, bear with me, this is not easy with my setup. So there's my bobble, okay? I'm going to turn off the camera. I'm going to knit across, finish this row. I will finish this row. I will purl back and I will come back to this bobble again to show you again how I doubly secure, or I don't know what you want to call it. It sort of eliminates all the pulled stitches around the bobble, and it makes sure that the bobble, like this first one, stays very erect and straight. So hold on, I will be right back. Okay, so I have purled and knit back to this last bobble I made. So I've got one more stitch to knit before my bobble stitch. So I knit that stitch. Then here is my bobble stitch. Now, again, I will take a piece from the bobble and put it up on the needle, and I kind of see what's wonky and what isn't. So there isn't really anything that's too wonky on this particular one. So I'm just going to grab whichever one seems the longest and loosest, right? So this one here seems to stand out above the rest of them. I will put that up on the needle. I will knit those two through the back loop. And I'm going to knit a couple stitches just so you guys can see. And there is, again, you can see here that I don't have any big gaping stitches around my bobble, right? No gaping stitches. I'm trying to show you all the angles. So yeah, this one too, the one I made earlier, there's no gaping stitches. And the bobbles stand fairly erect. Okay, so I'm going to again make another bobble. So you just, right, you knit one, but do not take it off, yarn over, two, see, this is what I dislike about working with bulky weight, super bulky weight yarns. They're just kind of a pain. Yarn over. You want to keep those yarn overs and your knit stitches fairly loose. Do it again, yarn over, knit one, yarn over, knit one, take it off. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches for the bobble. I turn it around. I do not purl or knit all these stitches. I go, and I'm not even sure why I started doing this. So I purl, then knit. Again, bear with me, it's this thick yarn and I have to hold my arms out about a foot in front of me to do this video, so it's a little crazy. And so I purl knit, purl knit, purl knit across all my stitches. It is not easy to demonstrate this when my arms are extended so far out in front of me. Okay, and then one more stitch. Purl. Okay, then we go back to the right side. Okay, we're back to the right side. And here you have all of your purl bobble stitches, bobble stitch increases. I'm going to slip that first stitch as if to purl. Then I'm going to knit two together, knit two together, knit two together, knit two together. Well, and bind off, right? Knit two together, bind off. Knit two together. Bind off. Knit two together. Bind off. Put your bobble stitch back onto the left needle. And as you can see, you wouldn't really want that. Just look at how wonky that would be if I just let that, right? If I just continued knitting, especially with this bulky yarn. If I just continued knitting, that would be a pretty sad looking bobble, right? It would kind of be just wonky. That is why I put it back on the left needle. I grab from the furthest end a strand of yarn, put it up onto the left needle, and then knit those two together through the, whoops, knit those two together through the back loop. And then I'm going to knit a couple of stitches. And there is my bobble. Now, when I come back around to that bobble, remember I said when I purl, you know, and finish my row, come back around, and when I come to the next time I'm going to work that stitch. If the bobble looks really good, you don't need to pull a piece up and do this one more time. If not, I always just extra secure it, but I don't think, depending upon how your bobble looks and the weight of the yarn and all of that, it isn't totally necessary, but I do it that second time because I feel like it just closes up any of those gaps between, you know, because you really stretch out the stitches making those bobble increases. I am back to my right side of work. And here is my bobble stitch. Now you can see the gaps here aren't too bad between the stitches. And if I knit this, I'm going to knit a couple stitches across. Right? And it doesn't look bad. It's a little gapey, but not really. And that bobble actually looks pretty good. And it's very spherical, so it really isn't necessary to take a piece of yarn and go back up onto the needle and re-knit that together to secure that bobble to make it sit perfectly flat with, or perpendicular, I should say, to the fabric. So it depends on, you know, again, it depends, and actually this bobble feels pretty firm and squishy and looks pretty darn good. So if you want to double secure that bobble though, I'm going to back this out. Just if you want to double secure it, here's your stitch right above your bobble. You can pull a thread. Now because this one is so secure already, I'm almost reluctant to do that. I guess I could find a thread down below and then knit that together. Okay, so that really just, see how that really just helps hold that bobble up by doing, when you come back around, by doing that extra pulling up a strand and knitting it together with that stitch, the bobble stitch again, it really secures that bobble. It won't flop down, it's not going anywhere, right? Some of the bobbles, and I have to say, it actually does really secure up the stitches around the bobble, so you don't have the gaping stitches around the bobble. So I hope that helps you guys. I know there are many ways to do bobbles, and this is just my way of doing them. I'm not even sure how I start. I guess I just practiced with the bobbles because it made me I was frustrated with sad, weepy looking bobbles. And so I just came up with this way, and it seems to work for me. So I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial. Please give it a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe to my channel, and I will have more tips and tricks coming. Stay tuned. Bye.